Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Hey everybody, I am pleased to observe and to comment how everybody in the community seems to be crushing it lately. You know, Owen absolutely hammered his tour. The Bears sold it out. The Junior Classics campaign is shattering records. The replatforming campaign is going incredibly well. And I'm very, very pleased to be able to say that we've got the initial draft of Corporate Cancer done, and we're going to be getting it out there on time this month in all three formats for everybody who is subscribed to Castelia. It's kind of funny because, we didn't mean to create a Castelia subscription, but events dictated that we should because of the replatforming effort. And now suddenly a lot of people are getting very enthusiastic about that. People are suggesting what books that they hope will be a part of it and so forth. It's really great. I don't think you realize how unusual it is in that only a small percentage of creators on that platform have more than 1,000 backers. I don't know if it's even been around for a week yet. I don't think it's been around for a week yet, and it's already at 1250. Unauthorized is doing great. In case you didn't notice, all the dark streams are just about caught up. Last night's is not up yet, but that one and this one will both be up tomorrow. So, everybody's crushing it. Especially the chickens. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the travails that we have had. We don't really do the gentleman farmer thing that Owen and his. I don't know that I've ever seen. I don't know that I've ever seen Space Bunny more just shaken because. She came back. She's like, they're gone. I'm like, what do you mean they're gone? How can they be gone? She's like, they're just gone. And sure enough, they were all, gone. You could see some of the feathers and so forth. But so anyhow, that was difficult on some of the family. But so we went and got another type of chicken, and then. Boom. Somehow, despite the fact that Space Bunny had totally reinforced the coop and everything, they were gone too. And that's when the miracle of the chickens happened, which was that night, 3 of them actually came back. My son had said, hey, I think I hear a chicken out there. He was, playing with his dog. And we're like, what? And then all of a sudden, we're calling for Space Bunny. She's like, be quiet. I think I see the chicken whose name it was. And so anyhow, 3 of the 4 chickens actually survived. Now since then we've added a few chickens. We lost a few chickens. We ended up with a rooster. We had a situation with mites that killed 2 of the newest chickens that we got later. It's just one thing after another. So anyhow, we ended up having a run built, and then of course it gets too rainy in the run, so then suddenly the run needs a roof. So at the end of the day, we have what I describe as the most expensive eggs in the world. Now they're good eggs, don't get me wrong. And so, but you know, and they do produce a lot of them. And so, oh, hey, we got a gamma. Goodbye forever, gamma. No one will miss you. Anyhow, yeah, I mean, it was just comical the way that it went. So anyhow, the thing is that, so now we've got this chicken fortress that you can only really describe it or understand it if you've seen the Mission Impossible films with Tom Cruise. You have to do everything, including an eye scan, in order to get into it. But like I said, the chickens are crushing, and I'm going to explain it, and I'm even going to show you. So this is an egg that is the size of a ordinary store-bought egg. It weighs 50 grams, and this is actually one of our chicken's eggs, but it weighs about the same as it weighs the same 50 grams as the regular store-bought egg. Now, the regular eggs that our chickens produce are 65 grams, and they they're a little bigger, but this is the average size of the eggs. We get a number of them every day, and so and they really do fill you up, because if you have 2 of them, then you definitely had a meal. So often for lunch, I'll just have 2 eggs and a piece of toast or something, right? Now, we occasionally get bigger eggs. This one weighs 75 grams, and this one was actually today, I believe. So 75 grams. It's not true that the smaller eggs taste better. Trust me. So anyhow, so this is the 50, and this is the 50, and this is the 75. So you can see that they're sizable, right? But 2 days ago, we got this egg. Now, this is 115 grams. So look at the difference. The chickens, these are just the straight up duck eggs, or not duck eggs, straight up chicken eggs. We don't have ducks. So anyhow, it's really crazy. Anyhow, no, we're not doing chicken stories or anything. The thing is that, well, yeah, I was actually glad. We did have a hen got egg bound and died about a year ago or so. But anyhow, yeah, it's pretty clear the chicken who laid that egg identifies as an ostrich. So them are doing what the VFM do. We don't call it crushing. So anyhow, that's what's going on there. I don't really have I don't really have anything else that I intended to talk about tonight, because I've literally spent the entire day working on setting stuff up for Castalia Deluxe, and we're hopefully going to be able to open up the Castalia Deluxe subscriptions later this week. So anyhow, I know a lot of you are planning to subscribe to that, and so we will let you know. We'll send out an email to all 351 would-be or intended subscribers. I understand some people are going to change their minds. Other people are going to have other things to do. Yeah, we can do stupid question day. Why not? We haven't done that in a while. But we're still going to leave the title "Even the Chickens Are Crushing" because that is just too funny. Sam, there's no need to miss stupid question day. We just declared open stupid question day. How many Rogans tall are those eggs? Well, the big one is obviously 2 Rogans tall. The regular ones are about 1. Is Spider-Man Gamma? No. I think he's Delta. How can a Christian monarchy ensure that each generation of kings stays in Logos? It can't. That's what I've been trying to explain. You can't expect the ism to fix people's hearts. Do you have any thoughts on Evola? Not particularly. I started reading him a bit and found him rather boring. My favorite synthesizer model brand, well, I was an Ensoniq guy back in the day. But, my opinion of synths and samplers is so outdated, I don't think it's even relevant. Have you read Cordwainer Smith? Yes. Did you like him? Yeah, it was okay. Is Kanye's conversion net good or bad? People repenting and confessing and turning to Jesus Christ is always good. Whether he does genuine good with it or not, we don't know. Was Goldmund in Hermann Hesse's book an alpha or a sigma? He was definitely a sigma. What position do you play football? I used to be, for most of my life, I played striker, but in the last 2.5 years, I've mostly played on the wing. I switch between left and right wing readily. I can cross with either foot, so I don't mind either side. Owen says, you like eggs? How you like them eggs? Grizzly Mama Bear says, you were right about Calvinism. I spent the week reading about it on your blog. I grew up in a Dutch Reformed church, but I've never heard much about the TULIP acronym stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Ever read any Thomas Costain? No. Will Nick Fuentes and the Groypers be more successful than Spencer's Right? Well, yes, absolutely, because Nick genuinely believes what he is talking about. Spencer was a fraud from the start. He's total fake right. There's nothing right-wing about him. People say, don't punch right. Don't criticize Richard Spencer. It's like, why not? He's on the left. He's always been on the left. You can't punch right against people who are observably on the left. It's ridiculous. Are demons fallen angels or something else entirely? I think there's something else entirely. There's a theory that they're, the spirits of dead Nephilim, etc. There's a lot of different theories, but I think that for the most part that they are something other than the fallen angels. What position do you play in rugby? I played the wing, whatever they call that, the one that's farthest out on the edge. I never really understood the rules, to be honest. I joined the team and they said, if the ball comes to you, go that way. If your opposing guy gets the ball, tackle him. And that was pretty much the extent of my tactical knowledge of rugby. Beto O'Rourke has officially announced he's dropping out of the presidential race. Was he too white or just too irrelevant? Well, he was number one, too white. That was always going to be difficult, but if he was sufficiently charismatic, then that would have been okay. But he couldn't deliver. So, what do you think about Anthony Burgess? I don't think about him at all. I didn't know who he was when he was alive. I don't know. Little Savitar into a canyon wall with a trebuchet. Uh, I understand the impulse. Is Matt and so forth. There are some reasons to question that. Let's see. Would you consider to write a book review of Bronze Age Pervert's book? No, I have no interest in that. When are you going to organize a retreat so we can all meet up in Italy? Um, you know, I mean, we've actually kicked around some ideas like that, but I think it would be difficult just because you'd have genuine people, and then you'd have the inevitable infiltrators and all that sort of thing. So I doubt we'll do that. Um, was Kurgan's glass and knife demonstration CGI? No, he's a lunatic. Um, would it be worth reading the Book of Enoch or stay away from it? I would read it. I have read it. Um, are homosexuals born or made? I think it's a little of both. I think that we are all born with inclinations, and that people who have certain inclinations find it much more easily to be pushed in certain directions. But there's no question that there's a tremendous amount of predation and recruitment and so forth in that community. Will the Brexit Party pick up more votes next month? Yes. How much? I don't know, but they will get into Parliament. Your take on Genghis Khan in a phrase? Uh, ruthlessly ambitious. What's the latest on Greg Johnson? I don't know, although somebody commented on the blog that he actually has, or commented actually on the YouTube stream from yesterday, commented that he has the best lawyer in Norway and that they expect a positive outcome. So that'll be interesting. Did you watch Fallen with Denzel Washington? Yeah, that was actually pretty good. I actually rather like that movie. Is Boris Johnson cucking in Brexit, or is it necessary to delay? Boris Johnson is kind of like Trump in that he wants to stop the continued move towards globalism by his nation, but he's not really willing to fight. And so that's, I don't think he's a complete cuck. He's not. He would have, there are too many easy opportunities to do so that he passed up. He wants to be the man who rescued Britain and led it out of the EU. But he doesn't want to blow up, the entire European system. And so that's where he's different than Farage. Berserker sends in $2. Thank you. You're on a desert island, but you get one fiction book. What is it? I mean, obviously, how to build a boat from coconut trees, palm trees. I don't know. No, but if you're talking about what's my favorite book that I would read and reread, it's probably The Dark is Rising. Boris is all about immigration amnesty. Yeah, that's the problem. He like Trump, he's basically a CivNat, and CivNats just no matter how pure intention they are, they can't possibly fix or even really begin to address the problem. What principle of the art of war best illustrates that freedom is a rhetorical trap? I don't know. Yeah, the guy who played Jesus in The Passion is a Christian. Let's see. Kendra JS sends $5. Thank you. How quickly will other nations in the EU follow the UK if they're not led by the subverters? Relatively quickly. I think that the next nation out will probably be out within 2 years of Brexit. How do I reconcile the anger and contempt I have for my boomer parents? They led me astray growing up, telling me things such as never get married or have kids. Well, you have to stop listening to them. And you have to stop taking their advice seriously. I think that you need to keep in mind that they were lied to, and they still believe the lies. And so once you begin to see them as fellow victims, because keep in mind, if they, kept you from getting married or having kids, I don't know how old you are, so, if it's not too late, then pursue it, right? But, they also denied themselves a lot of good things. So keep that in mind. What do you think of John Dee? He was an occultist. Can I start with Awake in the Nightland by Wright, or should I read the original first? No, read the Wright. The original is fascinating, but very difficult to read for the average person. I would definitely read Awake in the Nightland. Where would you put Stannis from A Song of Ice and Fire on the hierarchy? Is he a secret king or just an alpha in a world run by gammas? Oh, he's almost certainly an alpha. I mean, most people in that position are going to be, at least have some alpha strain. He's clearly got an alpha strain. He clearly understands the hierarchy and so forth. He respects it, and it offends and puzzles him that other people don't. If geography is destiny, then where is Logos destined to rise the most? Well, probably wherever life is the hardest. Have you ever designed an economic system in a video game? No. Not a full economic system. I mean, obviously everyone's done gamification and that sort of thing, but you touch on a point in a prior scene where you mentioned human beings are more than a collection of atoms. I wonder where that was from. I don't know that it was from anywhere. I think I probably just said that. Vance P says, who is the best American general and the worst? Thank you for doing a stupid question day. Well, let's think about the candidates. George Washington was good strategically and not very good tactically. You have Patton, who was very good tactically, very aggressive, very successful. Eisenhower, more of a logistics guy, but obviously understood the strategic side of it. Marshall, I don't like because of the Marshall Plan, among other things. You have Robert E. Lee, who, obviously a lot of people respect and think very highly of, but he was really bad strategically in a number of ways. You've got Grant and Sherman. Grant reminds me a bit of Fabius Maximus. So Pershing from World War I, no, definitely not. And then you've got you've got Norman Schwarzkopf with the whole Desert Storm thing, which, on the one hand, yes, they had overwhelming advantage. On the other hand, they executed flawlessly and, had barely any casualties. So I think that you probably have to either go with Schwarzkopf or with Grant. Those would be my two choices. It's a little bit hard to say because of the difference in the degree of difficulty. On the other hand, you know, Grant did have he had huge advantages with, the same type of huge advantages. Not the same advantage, but he did have a lot of big advantages too. So, I don't have any thoughts on Resident Evil 4. What's your best bet for a man who has left it too long to make a family? Well, I don't think that you have. I mean, even if there's men who are having children at 65 and 70. So, but if you can't find a wife or something, which actually at your advanced age, you should be able to, although I guess it would be tough to have a family if she's of a similar age. But, then what you should do is find a young family, preferably one that you're somehow related to, either by blood or from your area, and adopt them and help them out. Oh, I mean, Stonewall Jackson was great, but in a lot of ways, but I don't think that he was operating on the same scale as some of the others. He was lower ranking. Thoughts on geniuses believing in God? Who cares? Genius is about accomplishment, not intelligence. So I don't think that their belief or disbelief is significant. How do I convince my friend Varg's take on Christianity is wrong? Have him look at good and hard at Christian society versus post-Christian society. Varg's take is completely wrong. Am I correct in supposing that women don't really have a hierarchy because they organize according to which men they compete for and follow? Well, I don't know why. I just know that they, and they do have a hierarchy of sorts, but it's complicated and dynamic, and I don't pretend to understand all the rules. I don't know why one purse versus another purse gives a woman higher status. I know that her husband and her husband's job give her more status. I know that being pretty is better than not being pretty, but how all those variables compete and compare, I don't know. Kevin Crater says, is asking forgiveness from God as easy as it sounds? No, because your pride gets in the way. Your pride, your shame, your guilt, those things all get in the way. But in terms of the actual, there's nothing physically difficult about doing it. It's all mental and spiritual. Bear Brain Schemer says, excited for the fight. Excellent. Hope you're able to do next month's QM as hardcover. No, we're definitely not going to do hardcovers for the replatforming program for the Castelia subscription. The problem is that shipping the hardcovers is just too expensive. We'd have to charge more, and I don't want to do that. Especially because the other reason is that we sell considerably more of the paperbacks. Before we made the decision, we sat down and we looked at all the books to see what people were preferring to buy. And the one type of book that people buy hardcovers more than paperbacks is when the book gets over about 700 pages. The reason is that the cost of the paper then is more significant than the cost of the cover. And so, if there's a difference of $5, and then you just go for the hardcover. But when the price is below 20, people usually go for the paperback at a rate of between 5-1 and 10-1. So, but the thing is, QM is going to look great in the paperback. We're going to go with the Demi Octavo size, our standard paperback size, partly because that's a little bit more stable. When you go with the bigger size, the spines are not quite as strong on the paperbacks. Let's see. Which Bible version do you like best? In English, the NIV. Is Alt Hero Q coming out in paperback soon? It's a comic. It is. Oh, you mean Alt Hero Q #2? Yeah, that's going to be out fairly soon. Probably before the end of the month. Avalon 5 and 6 should be out relatively soon too. Any news on Social Galactic 2.0? Yeah, the tech lead is on my case politely, because we're really ready to go into beta on it, and so I need to call him and give him the green light on that. So we'll be getting that out to you, those of you in the burn unit, very soon. We're missing a few things like, that's what I need to talk about. We're missing a few things like badges and that sort of stuff, but it's going along well. Would it be worth it for the South to reconquer the North and Southwest after the collapse of the U.S.? I doubt it. Empire is never a good idea. Would you consider making a guest appearance with Rollo? I mean, I like Rollo. I don't have any problem with Rollo. I don't do a lot of interviews and joint talks and stuff. Not that I'm necessarily against it, but difficult. Any chance of getting Aristotle's Ethics for Castelia Deluxe? I would say there's an excellent chance. We're definitely planning to do the rhetoric, and so if the rhetoric and the ethics would fit together, which I think it would, then there's a very good chance that we will do that. Do you think there are still people with the gift of prophecy in the church? I expect so, yes. Thoughts on the theory that St. Paul and Joseph Flavius are the same person? Not possible. Not based on the various things that they observe and so forth. How do you get your wife to lose weight? I have no idea. Space Bunny was the one on my case to lose weight. She's never needed to. She's a pretty hardcore gym bunny. So I just have no experience with that whatsoever. But it might help to set a good example. Remember, you can only control yourself. You can't control another person. So it's not a mystery. A higher shipping rate for a hardcover. Hardcover's way more. There's numerous examples where you're right under that 1 pound weight with the paperback, and then the hardcover takes it over. It's also more expensive to produce, by the way. Let's see. I don't have any particular thoughts on William Wallace. Was Josephus's reference to Jesus a forgery added later? There's no reason to believe so. There's no evidence suggesting that. Can we add the abolition of daylight savings time to the 16 points? It's not necessary. It's already pretty much getting abandoned by Europe, and I expect that the USA will follow suit relatively soon. Is horror an anti-Christian genre? Well, I think to a certain extent, it's a little bit ironic because they're dealing with evil, so in some ways it tends to draw on Christian theology more than most genres, but because it's wallowing in evil, and because it's inflicting psychological scars and negative thoughts on people, I think it is fundamentally anti-Christian. I don't watch horror for the most part. And I don't really read it other than Lovecraft. Does the ability to produce infertile offspring indicate common ancestor? You would think so. Does anyone actually find Owen funny, or is it just like a boomer thing? Boomers don't find Owen funny. You have it backwards. In fact, if you don't find Owen funny, you're probably either a boomer or a gamma, or possibly both. The Hendricks thus says, people often make themselves the subject of aggression even if they're the aggressor. Well, yeah, that's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Is this an American phenomenon, or have you seen this elsewhere? No, it's very, very common. False flags, go back millennia, not just centuries, millennia. Glenn Hall says, imagine if we Americans had full financial transparency of our representatives and officials. Could a bill like that ever pass? Constitutional? Yeah, certainly. There's no reason not to do it. Would it be constitutional? Yes, it would. Are white magic and black magic both evil? Yes, because magic is evil. Magic is about using your will to supernaturally transform the material world. Whether you think that you're doing it for a good purpose or an evil purpose is irrelevant. Let's see. Bear in Mind said he'd love some history-based streams about books I've read. I need to be doing these book reviews. And that's something else I got to get caught up on. Yeah. Hey, look at this wooden horse. Bring it in. Vox, do you find the adulation on the stream distracting? No. I mostly just ignore it. How do you manage all the compliments? I mostly ignore them. In case it's not clear, I'm not motivated by pats on the back and people saying, you're doing great, kid. Some people need it, some people don't. And that's one of the advantages of having been, a complete social reject as a young child, is that, you eventually learn to stop looking for stuff that's never, ever going to come. I think that's one of the differences between men who move up higher in the hierarchy and the gammas is the gammas never overcome their desire for it. They never grow out of it. They just need it. When you don't need it, then people start to view you as being, when you get older, people start thinking, wow, that person is really cool. And if you think about it, what does cool mean? It usually means fairly stoic, fairly indifferent, very approaching defeat and victory the same, and so forth. So if you learn how to not get concerned about criticism, you naturally have to not be concerned about adulation and compliments. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not nice sometimes. I enjoy it when someone honestly compares my work favorably to, say, George Martin's. I find it disturbing and flat out wrong if they do the same with, say, Tolkien. Just because I know where things stand, where they fall. What are your thoughts on premillennialism, postmillennialism, amillennialism? I have people wanting to talk to me about that on a regular basis. My understanding is that, I was brought up as a postmillennialist, but one of my colleagues is a very, very hardcore and well-founded premillennialist. I've reached the conclusion that I don't know. Weirdy Curb says, "Hey Box, big fan of you and what you do. However, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm going to run some salt into your wounds. How about that game? Real nail biter. Imagine if the Chiefs weren't missing 6 starters." I think the Vikings might have actually done better if the Chiefs had their starters, because then they wouldn't have played so, their game plan wouldn't have been so stupidly conservative. The thing that sucked about the game as a Vikings fan is that the Vikings had the win. 6 minutes left. They got the lead. They got the ball. They're on their own 30-yard line. They've got the NFL's leading rusher, and they're going up against a game but tired third worst rushing defense in the league. Obviously, the thing to do is run the ball right down their throats. They're tired. Just keep hammering away. Drive down the field, score the put-away touchdown, burn most of the clock. Not only do they not do it then, they don't do it after. They try to get cute with screens and catching them off guard and all this kind of crap. And then they did the same thing again after the game was tied up. So, the Vikings had that game and they threw it away. It was just ridiculous. Oh, Rothfuss is terrible. Patrick Rothfuss is an embarrassing gamma joke. Let's see. Binks, I ignore your web links. I actually aggressively ignore your web links, because what you don't realize is that in your inveterate need to try to, I don't even know what it is, but you need to understand that half the time, all you're doing by throwing these links in front of people is demonstrating that you haven't read stuff that people have already been discussing for 2 days. I would strongly recommend rethinking that approach. Okay? When you're putting up a link as if it's news to something that was discussed in a post on the blog 2 days before, the day before, earlier that day, it just indicates that you're not even paying attention to what we're talking about. So why on earth would anyone pay attention to what you're trying to bring to people's attention? Just, save it for the important stuff. If it's something on the Drudge Report, of all things, everybody already knows. So keep that in mind. The offensive coordinator should watch the Darkstream. Well, it was funny because Mark Trestman, who was a well-regarded offensive coordinator for the 49ers before he became the head coach of the Bears and failed completely, was actually a good friend of a friend of the family's. And so now I never actually met him, but I used to hear about him a lot. And so I I always kind of felt I wish I could I felt like I wish I could, communicate some of this stuff to this guy, but obviously it wouldn't have done any good anyhow. Sam says, okay, here's my stupid question. How bad is it for your transmission to slam shift without using the clutch? I don't know, but I don't think it's good. I wouldn't do it. You said before an alpha in Japan is different than an alpha in Africa. Is a sigma regardless of the culture? No, I think they're always going to be. I mean, every culture is different. And so the forms that these things take are going to be slightly different. I'm curious, do you do any traditional artwork like painting or graphic novel art? No, not at all. Is it feasible to euthanize gammas in a post-Civil War Europe or America? Unlikely, because the concept is not sufficiently well adjusted. Do you think Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback? Yes. I think he's having a bad patch. I think that Kitchens is probably not a good head coach. He strikes me as the classic good offensive coordinator, not suited to be the head coach. It's a material thing, then people should at least randomly be able to avoid evil. And yet, again and again and again, we see that's impossible. What were the girlfriend's sexy ears about in Wild Sheep Chase? I don't know. I mean, Murakami just, he's Japanese. They have weird little fetishes. The Japanese, because of the physical similarity of of their people, they tend to focus on much smaller details than in the West, where there's a much broader range of skin colors, hair colors, eye colors, and all that sort of thing. What would you consider Winston Churchill a nationalist in today's society? Well, he wasn't a nationalist, he was an imperialist. I mean, he was literally a strong imperialist. K-Bear said, I became amillennial when an amazing sermon showed how the early church avoided and survived Rome's destruction of Israel in AD 70. The church understood Revelation and left to spread the gospel to the world before Masada. Okay, that's interesting. Will you please have more stupid question days in the future? The chat loves it and appears to be easy for you to do. And we'll do them occasionally. There's a lot of things that we have to talk about. It's just I've been busy today and I'm kind of tired. Okay, Master Bo, you need to not. Well, it is stupid question day, so fair enough. That's a very, very stupid question. Japanese people all look alike? Okay, that's bordering on smart boy stupidity. Okay. Japanese people all look much more alike than all Americans do, even than all Swedes do, or Norwegians. Their hair is almost all the same color. Their eyes are almost all the same color. Their skin is a smaller range of colors. And so when you read Japanese literature, as I do, one thing that you'll notice is that the men tend to focus on small attributes that are usually not pointed out in Western literature. Like they might find the shape of the girl's ears particularly attractive. It's not dissimilar to the way that the Victorians used to focus on the shape of a woman's ankles because that's about the only thing they could tell. This is not rocket science. What's better, supply side or Keynesian? Supply side, but they're both wrong. Is it wrong that I'm white and find Japanese women attractive? No, of course not. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to someone, but I think that you would find that you will be much more happy and successful in your marriage if you marry someone from your own culture, of your own kind. And also, it'll be much, much easier on your kids, especially any male children, because young Hapa males are some of the most notoriously unhappy people on the planet. Is Richard Spencer's support of globalism one of the best signs that he is part of what you call the fake right? Yeah. I mean, that was a dead giveaway. The two things that you can always tell about the fake right is they are never Christian. Some of them might talk nicely about it, like Jordan Peterson. Others will attack it. But the other thing is that they will be globalist rather than nationalist. What's correct then? Well, Austrian economics is closer, but it's very far from perfect. We don't have a fully functional working model of economics. Grimlock 69 says, so if you want to be specific, nothing. There is no school of economics that is entirely correct. Grimlock 69 says, should a son be his father's Bravo or Delta? Depends on the son. I mean, first try to be the Delta and then be the Bravo if you can. A Japanese man complimented my teeth once. Wasn't sure how to take it until a lady friend explained. Yeah, exactly. Best Murakami book to start with? I would say start with the best one, which is A Wild Sheep Chase. Do you think there are less people in heaven than most people believe? I don't know what most people believe. Ever thought of making an RTS game based around managing the logistics of battle? I always thought it was odd to build units instead of transporting them in. I don't like RTS games, so no, I've never thought about that. What I dream about making, what I would love to make, is I'd love to make a RPG that revolved around the combination of speech recognition and synthetic speech, especially synthetic speech. I think that's going to be absolutely huge, as well as around my my APC AI model. But I'll need a lot more resources before we can, and more time before we can even think about that. Let's see. Kevin Crater, should I look past my desire to study psychology? Yes. In fact, your desire to study psychology is probably indicative of your feeling that there's something wrong with your own psyche. Most people study psychology in a futile effort to fix themselves. Rather than mess around with a bunch of nonsense, you'd probably be better off just figuring out what your weaknesses are and shoring them up and not worrying about why. Even if you know why, it won't help you. What are the 3 greatest pieces of Japanese literature in your opinion? Well, number 1 is obviously The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu. The second one is probably the Quintet by, why do I always space in his name? Hang on. Mishima, the Quartet by Yukio Mishima. And then I would say that I think you got to throw Murakami in there. And even though A Wild Sheep Chase is what I consider to be his best book, my favorite book, I would actually say that the accomplishment of 1Q84 is more impressive. Now, there's a ton of stuff that I haven't read. So, I don't consider my take to be significant. Can you explain in an economic sense why usury is inefficient? Easily. What usury does is it pushes out the demand curve. So imagine a supply-demand curve. Like this, right? So when the demand curve gets pushed out, actually it's not going to work because of the mirror effect, but anyhow, when the demand curve gets pushed out, what you're going to see is you're going to see more demand and higher prices. And this is going to, so that's going to immediately start screwing up the supply and the production. It's sending false signals. You can think of this as a variant of the what first Mises and then Hayek called the socialist calculation problem. There is fundamentally a usury or debt calculation problem, and it always results in oversupply of whatever is being most debt funded. So that's why you see it in the colleges right now. Why are there so many colleges, and why is there so many more college students than there used to be? Far more than are needed, right? The reason is because it's debt funded. So it pushes out the demand curve. There's much more demand for a college degree as a result, and then you see all the various economic efficiencies that result. We'll talk about my APC model some other time when I do a dev stream. Greatest individual warrior? I have no idea. What do you think of MOBA games like League of Legends, Dota 2? I think they're pretty cool. I mean, I would actually enjoy designing one. Do you think people benefit from joining the military in concern to shaping future nationalists? Not anymore, no. It's now all about social justice and programming them in that sort of magic dirt thing. Have you seen Shin Godzilla? No. If not, you should. Understanding the culture will make it incredibly amusing for you. It won Best Picture in 2016. Yeah, not a big movie guy, but maybe I'll do that at some point. I think credit brings forward the demand curve. Do you disagree? Yes. It doesn't bring it forward, it pushes it up. You're not just bringing forward demand in time, you're creating new demand where none would otherwise exist. Jordan Peterson is the greatest warrior. He almost beat up a boy who assaulted his daughter once. That's true. So brave. Thank you for this. And on that note, I'm going to show you this from the blog before I go. Let's see, where are we here? There we are. Crud, I thought I had it. Yeah, so I'm thinking about writing a review of Jordan Peterson's new book, Our Carnivore Meth Diet, How to Cure Depression and Disease with Meth Only. You know, and it's great if you think about it. What a great diet. Stay up for 28 days, lose weight, and feel great. Seriously, I cannot believe. I mean, that looks like the worst self-published book ever. I mean, okay, maybe not the worst, you know, but doesn't have like the definitely not meth diet. Yeah, just crazy. So, anyhow, on that note, I will say goodnight. Hope this finds you well, and we will see you at the next Darkstream. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.